So the UFC just announced a bunch of fights for UFC 304 in Manchester. They announced Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad 2. They announced Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blaydes 2. They've also announced Paddy Pimblett versus Bobby Green. They had Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. They announced a few other fights, but I'm going to just stick with these fights for today. Honestly, it's a great card and I can't wait to get to it. I haven't done any research yet for these fights, so I'm just giving you my first initial opinion about them. So let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into the main event, which is Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad 2. Now, finally, Belal Muhammad is getting his chance. He's getting his title shot. I think he has earned it. I know some people were kind of vouching for him not to get a title shot, but you know what? It is what it is at this point. I think Belal Muhammad has earned the right to fight Leon Edwards for the belt. Now, do I want Belal Muhammad to be champion? No way. Belal Muhammad is, I think, one of the most boring fighters on the entirety of the UFC roster, and especially in the rankings at welterweight right now. And I know Leon Edwards is not too exciting as well. But I think when it comes to, if I tier listed this from A to F, I would put Belal Muhammad at A tier while Edwards being at like C or B tier in terms of boringness. So I think Belal Muhammad is a tier above Edwards in terms of having snooze fest fights, but Belal Muhammad can get this one done. And the reason I'm saying that is because Belal Muhammad just knows how to push a pace. And I think that's been his biggest weapon so far in his little run that he's gone on, his little win streak that he's had. And Edwards is known for kind of controlling the pace. He's kind of a pick your shot kind of fighter. He slows the fight down. He lands low kicks. He lands his 1-2. He really just finds his range, stays at that range, and just picks at you for 5 rounds. And if Belal Muhammad can use his pace to disrupt that and get Edwards out of his flow, then we might see Belal Muhammad just break Edwards throughout 5 rounds and maybe even win it by TKO in like a 5th round or something like that. If I was picking Belal Muhammad, I would say he would win by decision. That's just how he is. Belal, remember the decision, Muhammad. But however, I'm thinking Edwards gets this one done versus Belal Muhammad. Listen, Belal Muhammad, he's not necessarily chinny, but he can be chinned. And we saw in their first matchup that ended in a draw where Edwards eye-poked Belal. Edwards did hurt him with the head kick at one point. And if he can hurt Belal Muhammad, I think that's really all I need to say. That might not be the most convincing statement, but if Edwards can control the pace, which I think he possibly can. I know I just mentioned how Belal Muhammad has a good pace on him, but I think Edwards will still find a way to control the pace of Belal Muhammad. And I think at some point in the 4th or 5th round, we're going to see Belal Muhammad kind of behind on the scorecards, and maybe he decides to get a bit reckless versus Edwards, gets himself out of position, and then maybe possibly gets head kicked by Leon Edwards. That's what I can see happening. I can see him being down 2-1, 3-1 on the scorecards going into the 5th round or 4th round, and then trying to go for something to get himself back into the fight, and then getting caught by Edwards from a counter shot. That's just how I see it. I don't really see Belal Muhammad getting too many takedowns because Edwards, I think, is actually a really underrated grappler. He took down Usman, which that was the first ever time that Usman has ever been taken down. I still think Colby took him down a few times in their fights, but Edwards can grapple. He's been training his takedown defense for so long now. I mean, every single fight he was probably drilling the shit out of takedown defense. So I don't really see Belal Muhammad really having too much success in the takedowns versus Leon Edwards. And so I do think we're just going to see Edwards go out there and just outpoint Muhammad and then find him slacking or him getting a bit too risky and reckless and getting caught by a head kick from Edwards, probably in round 4 or 5. And I'll mention this as well. I didn't want to dive into this so early, but I just think Belal Muhammad is destined to lose this fight. Now, this is just my personal opinion and my own speculation. It just feels like Belal Muhammad has been clamoring or just really putting himself out there to get this title shot. I think he's destined to just fall short. And that sounds awful. I know what you're thinking, but I think the Belal Muhammad story is a story of tragedy. I think he's going to be going out there and we're going to see a promo of him talking about, I worked so hard for this. I've been advocating for a title shot for so long now. The UFC didn't want to give it to me. Nobody wanted me to get this title shot. And then he goes out there and he gets finished. It could be a huge hero story in hindsight that we might see if he does win. But to me, his story just spells tragedy. I don't know. That's just what in my brain, my gut feeling, it's what it's telling me. I think the Belal Muhammad story is going to be one of him getting finished brutally by Leon Edwards. We move on to the co-main event, which is going to be Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blaydes 2. Now, I'll mention this. I'm worried for Tom Aspinall here because when you watch Tom Aspinall fight, he does leave his chin up in the air quite consistently. And fighting Curtis Blaydes, who does have power, is pretty worrying because Curtis Blaydes can crack. I know he cracked Chris Dawkins forever ago. I don't care. That fight still proved to me that Curtis Blaydes has power in his hands. And Tom Aspinall, not really known for getting chin. I think he has a good chin. If I had to bet on it, there hasn't been much evidence of him getting his chin tested. So maybe Curtis Blaydes might be that first guy to test out Aspinall's chin. And I think when it comes to grappling, I don't think Blaydes is going to be able to get a takedown on Tom Aspinall. I don't think Blaydes is athletic enough to take him down. I think Tom Aspinall is just going to be way too quick for him. But on the feet, that is Curtis Blaydes' best chance to win this fight. Tom Aspinall, again, leaves his chin up in the air when he's throwing punches, but he's fast. He is the fastest heavyweight right now. I think he has the best striking. I think he is the fastest striker at heavyweight. I think he's the most talented fighter at heavyweight. I don't care. Jon Jones, you're ducking this man, and we know why you're ducking him. There's no way the interim champion, Tom Aspinall, has to defend his belt. This shouldn't be a thing unless Jon Jones just can't fight. And I respect Tom Aspinall for going out here and saying, fuck it, I don't care. Jon Jones won't fight me, so I'll fight somebody else. I will not let Jon Jones hold my career back and just wait for him. So I'm going to not wait and fight Curtis Blaydes and make it undeniable for Jon Jones to fight me. Honestly, at this point, I think it's pretty disrespectful for Jon Jones not to fight Tom Aspinall, but you know what? He's fighting in Manchester. He's fighting at UFC 304. He's defending his interim belt, which I do view him as pretty much the undisputed at this point. I think Tom Aspinall is a true champion at heavyweight, but he's defending his interim championship belt versus Curtis Blaydes. And I think he will be too fast for him. And you know what? If things get a bit too iffy for Tom Aspinall on the feet, we saw Jailton Almeida be able to consistently take down Curtis Blaydes. And I know it's Jailton Almeida, but Jailton Almeida was also like 30 pounds lighter than Curtis Blaydes, and he was still ragdolling him throughout those 2 rounds. So I think a heavier Tom Aspinall, who I think has comparable grappling or takedowns to a Jailton Almeida, can find ways to take down Curtis Blaydes if he needs to. Now, do I think Tom Aspinall will go out there and immediately grapple with Curtis Blaydes? Probably not, but I think if he has to, he will. And I think he has more options to win this fight than Curtis Blaydes. The only thing I think holding back Tom Aspinall is, again, his chin being up in the air. And this fight might remind him of his old demons when he first fought Curtis Blaydes. Maybe we might see a scared Tom Aspinall because this is back in Manchester against the same opponent in Curtis Blaydes where he tore his ACL not too long ago. So maybe Tom Aspinall has some old demons fighting in Manchester, fighting against Curtis Blaydes. Maybe he might have another unlucky streak. Maybe he just gets really nervous and he just has a really terrible performance. I don't know. But I think just overall, if he locks in, I think he probably does beat Curtis Blaydes. Now, if he does want the Jon Jones fight after this, he has to be flawless. That's one thing. Tom Aspinall has to be absolutely undeniable fighting Curtis Blaydes. I don't think Curtis Blaydes can land even a punch on him because guess what? If Curtis Blaydes has any amount of success versus Tom Aspinall, we're just going to see Jon Jones be like, that guy got hit by Curtis Blaydes. He ain't beating me. So Tom Aspinall, I know you've already convinced me you're next for a title shot, but if you want to convince the whole entire Jon Jones fan base you're next for a title shot, you're going to have to be absolutely flawless versus Curtis Blaydes. Otherwise, you're not getting it. But I don't know. I think Tom Aspinall wins. Again, I'll do more research when we actually get into fight week. But right now, as my first initial thought, I think Tom Aspinall gets this one done. Moving on to another big fight, Bobby Green versus Paddy Pimblett. Now, when I first saw this, and even thinking about it in the past, I was like, you know what, Bobby Green just tools up Paddy Pimblett on the feet. He just pretty much messes his face up. Paddy Pimblett can't strike. But I thought about it more. And again, this is my first initial impression. I'm leaning towards taking Paddy Pimblett, and I don't know why. This is like more of a gut feeling. So I'm going to give you the logical reasoning why Bobby Green should win this. Paddy Pimblett can't really get takedowns. He hasn't had a good double leg ever in his UFC career. Bobby Green has amazing striking, while Paddy Pimblett looks like a middle school girl out there striking. So, I mean, like, it's very, I think, a mismatch in terms of that. Paddy Pimblett does have better grappling than Bobby Green, but can he get Bobby Green to the ground? I don't think so. Like, again, Paddy Pimblett, I've just never seen him shoot a good double leg. Most of his takedowns come from a guy holding him against the cage and him doing a judo throw on them. So it seems like Paddy Pimblett's going to have to evolve his grappling game if he wants to beat Bobby Green. He's going to have to shoot good doubles and good singles if he wants to get down Bobby Green. He just can't go out there and then just hold him and then get a body lock takedown, which possibly is possible. But I think we're going to have to actually see Paddy Pimblett shoot athletic takedowns to get down Bobby Green, or do something very smart with his takedowns. Otherwise, I don't really see Paddy Pimblett winning. And that's my logical brain talking right there. Now, my emotional brain, my gut feeling, for some reason, I don't know why, I just see Paddy Pimblett just getting like a overhand right KO on Bobby Green, knocking him out cold. I don't know why I'm seeing that or why I'm picturing that in my brain. But when I think about this fight, all I'm seeing is Bobby Green's lifeless body on the ground with Paddy Pimblett over top of it, twerking on him. Like, my brain and my heart are fighting each other. Like, I want Paddy Pimblett to win. I think he's a potential UFC star. Obviously, he has more name value than Bobby Green. He has more potential than Bobby Green at this point because Bobby Green is an old man, and I think the sport would benefit from having Paddy Pimblett make it up the rankings, eventually being champion. Now, do I see that actually happening? No, but I think as long as Paddy Pimblett is winning fights, it's good for the UFC. It's good for the fan base. It's just good to have Paddy Pimblett at the top of the sport. So I do think Bobby Green wins. I'm going to take Bobby Green logically, but for some reason, I might change my pick down the line. I just see Paddy Pimblett just somehow knocking out Bobby Green out cold. And maybe it's possible Bobby Green did take some really bad damage versus Jalen Turner, but when he fought Jim Miller, it seemed like he kind of has gotten back a little bit. Maybe his chin has recovered for a little bit, but maybe Paddy Pimblett can expose that old Jalen Turner fight and basically KO Bobby Green out cold. It's possible, but I don't know, man. I think Bobby Green wins, but something tells me that Paddy Pimblett wins. So that's pretty much it. Those are the 3 fights that I wanted to cover. Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad 2, Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blaydes 2, and then, of course, Bobby Green versus Paddy Pimblett. They did also announce Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. I'm going to take Arnold Allen there. I think Chikadze got taken down by Calvin Kattar a few times. I think Arnold Allen can do the same thing. I think he will just take down Chikadze and control him and beat him up and win that fight, probably by decision. So, with that being said, I'm out of here, guys. Let me know your opinion in the comment section down below, who you think wins these new fights on UFC 304 in Manchester. But I'm out of here. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon for notifications.